Welcome to another edition of the official Catchup podcast. We're back with another week of your Lowland, East of Scotland, South of Scotland, and West of Scotland discussion. I'm joined as always by Chris. Chris, how you doing?
Yeah, good. I think this is the first time in a wee while that we've done pretty much back-to-back weeks.
So,
So that did we do back-to-back weeks last week? Actually, did we
I
do
think
the?
we're on three in a row, because I think we did a
Aye,
preview episode, and then we did the first week of the season in the set.
aye. Well, we promised people to be more regular, and hopefully that's what it's going to be now. We've kind of got a settled day, hopefully, in Sunday. So I will just see how it goes, Benny.
Basically, me and Chris are boring bastards, and we don't do it on Sundays, so we can just do podcasts. My wife's away out for the day. I'm just going to sit in my pants and watch sport probably. So let's podcast first and get that done. But yeah, obviously we'll talk about the different goings on around the leagues within kind of tier 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, whatever it is these days. We lose track about where we're at in terms of the tier structure in Scotland. But let's start in the Lowland League then, Chris. It was Dalbeattie 2, Cumbernauld Colts 5. Another poor result for Dalbeattie there.
Yeah, that was an eye opener because obviously Cumbernauld were 5-1 up at half time. Crazy to think that one player that kind of stood out for the last sort of few weeks. I don't know if you'll recognise the name, but Cole McIntyre, Ben. I think he played for EK Thistle. He looks like a real proper find for Cumbernauld Colts. But yeah, 5-1 up at half time. I mean, that's a brilliant result for Cumbernauld Colts, who I think struggled early. In fairness, I thought they would be a wee bit better this season under David Proctor. Again, we could talk about gelling and all this sort of stuff, but that's a really good result for them, and hopefully they can build off it. We have said numerous times we're a wee bit worried about Dalbeattie in terms of their quality, in terms of how they gel as well. I mean, that's got to be disheartening, being 5-1 down at half time. In fairness, I guess they won the second half by getting a goal to make it 5-2, but yeah, Cole McIntyre, Stephen O'Neill, and a Ewan McPherson hat-trick was the downfall for Dalbeattie in the first half, and obviously Cumbernauld Colts, an excellent result. And like we've said with teams that may be struggling, sometimes you feel like they probably just need this result to kickstart their season, and it'd be interesting to see where Cumbernauld go from here. And obviously with Dalbeattie, we want to see how Jordan, how his players will react from a devastating defeat, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I've seen Cumbernauld Colts in pre-season against us. They beat us 1-0 that day, but I didn't see an awful lot of them. I thought they were going to be set the world alight, but that's 2 wins in the bounce for Cumbernauld Colts. Beat Shire last week as well, so certainly obviously picked up a bit of pace there. They got Gregory Taddy up front. I didn't realise he was playing for Cumbernauld Colts.
I don't think he plays up front, actually. I think he's more of a, as players get older, they kind of drift back. I'm pretty sure he's more of a DM sort of centre midfielder now.
Plenty of class in that regard that he probably can do that. I think that's probably easy for a guy like him to play at this level. But yeah, I think that's a good signing for them. You mentioned Cole McIntyre there; he's a good player, and certainly a good result for Cumbernauld Colts. Seem to be doing all right. And yeah, but Dalbeattie, as we say, is looking. It's looking a bit tougher for them. Certainly, that's 4 defeats now, sitting bottom of the table, and kind of almost another kind of heavy defeat, I feel like, again. Obviously lost 5-0 to Stirling Uni a couple of weeks back, and I just hope it turns for them, because as I've mentioned before, we really like John Williamson as a coach, and just hope that does turn around. Alright, moving on then to the next game. East Stirlingshire 1, Cali Braves 1. Surprising result. I thought I expected more from Shire, certainly. I don't have a lot of faith in Cali Braves, certainly. I think probably one of the teams I'd expected to be kind of close to the bottom, but certainly Shire started pretty poorly, I would say, so far, Chris.
Yeah, Shire, we never really talked about Shire a lot the last sort of few weeks. It's a tough one because they probably don't have the finances that they did a few seasons ago. I mean, they really looked like they were probably aiming for a league title only, 2-3 seasons ago. So it's difficult. Obviously, I think there's financial barriers at the club. I mean, I don't know the complete ins and outs, but, from what they were paying players to where they are now is probably, completely different. They brought in a lot, obviously, the Dunny Pace under 20 sort of guys, so that's the sort of players they're aiming for. And I mean, that's probably what Cumbernauld Colts levels, they've done the same. They brought in a lot of the young guys from the highly successful Dunny Pace under-20s side. So it's interesting with Shire. I think they've got good players. I mean, one guy I've always highlighted out, ironically enough, obviously was on loan at Cumbernauld Colts last season. Sean Brown, I think he's a really good player. He set up Andy Kay's goal. Going into that one, I mean, there was a wee bit of back and forth media-wise. Obviously, Cali Braves media team brought up the pointless book written about Shire when they were languishing in the old third division. So I thought that was interesting. I think the Shire fans bit back a wee bit, obviously. I noticed rather than tagging Cali Braves, and they tagged into the Sport Academy when they were playing them, and when they scored, obviously, I think the one fan was going mental or something like that. So, I mean, it's all banter, eh? Yeah, it's nothing malicious or anything like that. So I'm all for it. But I tell you what, I don't know how much players and managers read into that, but certainly for me, I would have looked at that and went, all right, okay, and went out and tried to beat them. But Cali Braves, look, they had a good season last season. I think there's certain players like Zach Butterworth, Luke Main, who are really coming on now. I mean, they've still got a young team. Cali Braves, we've kind of mentioned them actually, but I actually think they'll be all right this season. I think they'll do pretty well. Shire, on the other hand, I think it's been a bit of a struggle so far, and I don't see that changing anytime soon. I think they probably will. I can't even remember where I've actually predicted them, but certainly lower than some would probably expect, I would say.
Position around the squad, they've brought in probably lesser quality players. They're probably later to feel maybe kind of they'll be mid-table Shire. I would expect. I'm not expecting to be challenging this year, and hopefully they can continue to build that squad, or potentially, I don't know if they can get some more financial support to give them the chance to challenge, because that's always going to be probably the danger now with the Lowland League, with the way the pyramid is. There's going to be teams coming through, whether that's East of Scotland teams or West of Scotland teams who do have that financial clout and can come in and take on the likes of Shire and probably take over their kind of positions in the league, where they probably felt like when they come down from League Two, that was probably their best chance really to get promoted, and as far that slips away, they're probably going to find a kind of natural order within the pyramid. In terms of Cali Braves, I've always said this, and I say I'm not too sure about them as a team. Next game in on the fixture list was Hearts B versus Silver Straws, 2-each draw there. It's probably, we don't know an awful lot about Hearts B at the moment. I think we probably need to go and see them at some point to find out more about them. But I'll probably first Civil away to Hearts is probably a decent result. But moving on, Rangers B defeated Cowdenbeath 3-2. I think Cowdenbeath they look like they're toiling in this league, and that's another defeat.
That's a sore one. I mean, I guess he's a Rangers fan, keeps bringing up Connor Young to me, and I keep telling him I know about Connor Young, don't worry. But he's like, I'll get him in the team of the month, team of the season. The issue with Connor Young at the moment is he's a bit of a super sub. The last sort of few weeks, he's coming on quite late into the game and getting goals. It's a bit hard to put him into a kind of team of the month when you've got other guys that have impressed for like a full 90 or whatever. But yeah, I've said it numerous times. I'm aware of Connor Young, obviously. He was on loan at Civil when he was 16, absolute banging goals in, and I hope he'll start games soon. I think they're just trying to adjust them into the way they want to play and whatever else, so.
Did I see the other day that Alex Lowry was playing for Rangers B?
Yeah, so I've had conversations. Something
controversial subject.
No, not too controversial, but yeah, there has been teams already kind of bemoaning the fact that these players. We talked about Thomas Brown, of whether if technically B teams can still play weaker teams and whatnot, and I think they are. I think they're still doing that. I mean, there's newer rules where, for example, if Alex Lowry was to go and play in the first team for like 5 games or whatever it is, I don't know the rules off, but it's pretty much based on appearance as a first team, I think, and then he would be ineligible again for the B team. But they're still doing that, where Alex Lowry and Owen Moffat and whoever else, seem to be in and out the B teams.
So I think the thing about Alex Lowry is I don't think he's actually played or featured for the first team yet. I think he'd been injured, and that was one of the things. He's not actually featured yet for the first team in the 2 games that they'd already played in the league. So I think he was eligible to play for the B team. But as you say, after a certain amount of games, if he plays in the first team, he's...
there's ways to get around this. The B teams or Celtic Rangers can probably there's ways of kind of exploiting that. Yeah, so you're probably still getting 1 week you're getting a really good team like someone like Kane Richie Hostler, who had an absolute stormer against EK, wasn't playing. In the following games, I think. So it's like, are they just playing their best players for the top teams, and maybe when you're coming up against a Cowdenbeath, if you're playing your sort of under 18s or whatever? I think it's the case so far, and I think you could probably make that point that that's still happening.
Yeah, that's probably what they're doing it for, and that makes a lot of sense as well, because it probably depends on what they're doing in terms of games. Because obviously they're probably still playing some of these European kind of friendly type matches as well, where obviously it's a different experience, and obviously depending on squads and all that kind of stuff. And I would say the thing that Rangers obviously and Celtic B have is that depth right down their kind of pathway, if you like, and they can do that, which obviously the rest of the teams in the league don't have. They probably have a pathway to a point, but obviously the quality is probably not going to be there quite the same as what Rangers and Celtic B. But another good result for Rangers B, and I think if we just touch on our predictions for a little bit, that I said one of the Colts teams will win the league. Rangers B sitting top of the table. I'm just saying, just going to point out now, just to remind everyone that I brought that up at the start of the season. But I think it's a good result to say Cowdenbeath. They look like, again, one of those teams that are about to find a level within the pyramid.
They brought in Stuart Love from Oakley United, who is kind of a bit of a, local legend in Fife, and I think he'll be a really good signing for them and experienced. The issue with Stuart, I don't think he's not played the highest sort of levels in the last few years. I think obviously again he was at maybe SPFL teams back in the day, but they kind of do need that. They didn't need a wee bit more experience, so I think that's an interesting signing for them. Previously you would think it's probably a wee bit unprecedented that a former SPFL team was going 3-4 tiers below to sign players, but it's becoming a kind of norm because we know the quality. We'll probably get into one team in particular later, but there is quality certainly down the levels. Just another point on the B teams actually, because it has been brought up. I believe Celtic are trying to change fixtures so they're not playing at the same time as the first team. I think it has to be agreed, obviously, between the two sides, but certainly Rangers are playing at the same time as the senior team the last sort of few fixtures, and you've got to question that. You've got to question, what that doesn't help your crowds or attendances. People that bought B team season tickets are potentially missing out because they're probably away seeing the senior team. So fair play to Celtic. I think that's the logic of playing like Friday nights or switching fixtures that I've certainly seen recently. Rangers, I don't know if maybe they've asked the question and it's maybe been rejected, but yeah, it's a weird one, that.
I guess it's probably one of these things that comes down to park availability, but certainly I think where the Lowland League were concerned, I think that would have been a smart move to arrange the fixtures at the start of the season that way. I don't think it should have been a case of the Rangers and Celtic or Hearts should be having to go and ask to move fixtures around, and it should have just been organised that way, that try and do it the best they can. If obviously potentially Rangers are going to be playing on Thursday night, so they'll be playing Sundays most of the weeks, you would imagine. So Saturday makes a lot of sense for them, and it gives the Rangers fans time to go and watch on a Saturday afternoon if they're obviously playing on a Sunday. Otherwise, the Friday night, I think we can talk about Friday night football. I think it's a great thing, and I know it's something that Open Goal Broomhill want to do, is have a lot of kind of Friday night games. We at Cowan and Rangers are also quite keen to do that. We've already switched a few of our games because it does draw the crowd, because I've said this before in the podcast, but I'll repeat again, you're always going to be competing against these Old Firm, or for us it's like Kilmarnock, if you're In the east, it's Hibs and Hearts, Motherwell. If you're in the Central Belt, St Mirren, Partick Thistle, etc. There's all these clashes you're going to have on a Saturday afternoon. So if you can find a way to play on a Friday, then it makes a lot of sense to me. So it's good as Celtic to do that. I think it's good to hear that they're making an effort, because that only helps, especially the away games. If you've got an away game like, for example, Cali Braves at Alliance Park, and you've got nothing to do, you might pay your £8 and go along and watch the Stars of Tomorrow if you're pitching it that way. And that's the old cliche, isn't it? The players of the future, whatever you want to call it. But certainly that makes a lot of sense.
I think it's an issue that will be resolved with, when Rangers and Celtic are in Europe anyway. As you say, they'll probably most likely be playing Sundays. But yeah, it was just a sort of early concern for Rangers fans to begin with. But I think it's just the way it is early season. Obviously, if Rangers qualify for the Champions League or the Europa or whatever, it'll be resolved if they start playing Sundays, obviously. But one we mentioned obviously the mass appeal of Friday night games. Certainly one stadium I probably wouldn't want to go on a Friday night or any other day of the week is Meadowbank. I mean, it looks horrendous. The view. I don't know if you saw that, Ben.
Yeah, but I seen Moz. I shared it on Twitter yesterday. That one of the accounts, and it looks absolutely howling, because it even looks like as if they're not even allowing the fans to really gather like at the best points in the ground. It's like they've got to be behind the goals, and obviously if you know Meadowbank, it's like predominantly athletics track with a new running track around it, and the distance is it's like fucking Hampden. Like,
yeah,
do you know what I mean? The distance from the touch, the I guess the touchline to to where the fans gather is massive, and that's not conducive to a good view of football. And it seems odd that it's been set up like that, but yeah, hopefully they can find a way to resolve that. But I definitely wouldn't fancy a game at Meadowbank for sure. I'd agree with that.
We should say we should also say obviously it's no fault of FC Edinburgh, because it's the council that built that or redeveloped, I should say, Meadowbank. But yeah, it's just it's horrendous. I cannot stand going to Hampden to watch football, and I think I probably wouldn't like going to Meadowbank either, to be fair.
Yeah, I've only been to Meadowbank, I think, to see Snow Patrol once, and I think that was about 10 years ago, but I've never been there since, certainly. But it doesn't look great for football, certainly.
Have a sidetrack there, sorry guys.
Happens, and it happens. You should know this podcast well by now that we can digress off into some random avenue of discussion. But back on to Lowland League quickly then. It was a 4-1 win for Spartans against Gala. Decent result for Spartans again.
Yeah, I was there. I was meant to go to Spartans last week, but kind of went to Sybil instead at Broomhill, because I wasn't sure when I would get the chance to see either. Obviously doing my research and whatnot. But God, ScotRail again. Less carriages on trains when the Fringe is on, when I think Pars were playing at Meadowbank, as we mentioned. So yeah, just a disgrace. And then obviously I had to get off at Waverley again, so I had to go through all the Fringe crowd, which was fun. So yeah, I got there about 5 to 3, I think, just 5 minutes before kick-off. But I think it was the best I've seen Spartans play in some time. Gala had a lot of players out, I think, through suspension, injuries and whatnot, so they weren't quite at their best. They did have a few chances, in fairness to them. They were trying to play football right, and I quite like that. They were kind of playing out from the back, and I actually enjoyed it. I think it would have worked if they had, their key players, or some of their key players that they had missing playing. But Spartans were good. And it was the man. I don't feel like we've talked about Cammy Russell for a long time, but it was him that gave Spartans the lead. A lovely low hit effort, and then probably maybe less than a minute later, he doubled his tally with a kind of low shot. I felt the Gala keeper probably should have saved it, but it was one where it was kind of just off the fingertips. If he had more of a hand on it, it would have been saved. But yeah, 2-0 Spartans at half time. They came out firing again in the second half. Jamie Dishington He says he meant it top bins, but it looked like a cross to me. The wind kind of floated it in, so 3-0 Spartans. He says top bins, no problem. That's his reply to that, but yeah, I'm not sure if I believe that, Jamie. But anyway, 3-0 Spartans, 4-0. Mikey Allen, who was class, actually, really, really good playing at left back. I've always kind of been a wee bit unsure at Mikey at left back, but I thought he had a brilliant game. He set up Blair Henderson for the fourth. And Gallagher's goal was a bit of a strange one. It was kind of like similar to the Spartans goal, apart from it hit off a Spartans player, cross into the box, hit off a Spartans defender. Carswell just out of his reach. He tried to save it, but no. Overall, great win for Spartans. I think they were solid all over the pitch. The high line was really kind of restricting Gala to maybe long balls, and yeah, I was really happy. Seeing Spartans. It was, as I say, it was the best I've seen of them. I'm sure I'll see Gala, down the line, and I'm sure they'll have better days. But it was Spartans' day yesterday.
So, seemed like you had a good trip to Spartans Day, Chris. Did you happen to bump into the Lowland League chairman?
Yeah, just at the end of the game, as I was leaving, I was speaking to Craig Graham, the Spartans chairman. I was speaking to a few of the Spartans boys during the game, but it was good to see them. But yeah, I kind of bumped into Thomas as I was leaving. We had a bit of a brief chat about the game and stuff like that, but obviously I'm trying to run back and get to the train and avoid the later fringe crowd coming back to where I am. So I do get the feeling like it was kind of a bit of an awkward one, but I don't. Again, I've said, we have said a lot of things about Thomas and the league decision making, but like we've always maintained, it's nothing personal. If it is personal, I can only apologise. But yeah, to us, it's not personal of the decisions made. Thomas, we've often said he was put in a tough spot, especially with Hearts coming into the league. It was kind of fell on him. He's going to annoy half the member clubs because they wanted one thing and the other half wanted another. So yeah, there's no heat between me or anyone really. I mean, it's football where we'll have opinions if you disagree with them, and there has been plenty of times where people disagreed with us. We don't tend to fall out over it, do we, Ben? So, well, you know what I'm like, Ben. I'm the kind of guy that kind of gets over it very quickly. I could have it's never happened yet, but I could have like a raging argument with you, Ben, and I'd be fine with you like 2 hours later.
Yeah, I mean, we do this podcast and it's all about opinions a lot of the time, and that's how we do it. Like it or not, people want to hear what we say. I mean, obviously, the views and the listens that we get on this podcast are conducive to that, and tell us that people somehow, for whatever reason, I don't really understand why, but people want to listen to what we have to say and what we know about the game and coverage of the game. So yeah, but we're always going to talk about the topical stuff, and if there's a bad decision made by the Lowland League, or any other league for that matter, it's not just the Lowland League. We're always going to hold that league or that club to account. That's what we do, and that's no different to any other journalist really. I'm not saying we're journalists, but certainly from a media perspective, that's what we're here to do. And there'll be some people who want us to make sure that we're holding things like, but people like the Lowland League board and to account, because there's maybe no one else doing it. I mean, time after time you find maybe in podcasts and the media, people are quite nice and want to be all friends, but we're quite happy to come straight down the middle and either say nice things or be negative if it needs that, because it only for us probably helps the league improve, or the leagues improve, and hopefully make the decisions right the next time. So that's all it is.
Yeah, and it was one of the things, because we were obviously over the summer we were swaying of whether we would continue sort of covering the Lowland League. But the more I thought about it, obviously you kind of said, we need to, basically what you said, hold everyone account in the pyramid at non-league level, and obviously the Lowland League is the top of the non-league pyramid, if you will. But the way I looked at it is you don't punish. We're talking about football mainly now, hopefully. Nothing controversial is probably going to happen within the next sort of few months. Touch wood, obviously. But yeah, I mean, you don't punish the players for that. At the end of the day, we enjoy talking about these teams and players and whatnot. And I don't think decisions made by a league board or member clubs or whatever should really affect that. And I think that's why we kind of made the decision to carry on as well. In fairness, Ben, we did, or certainly I praised them recently because the league sponsor is now gone, and it's something we kind of, questioned at the time, like whether they should maintain that relationship. And they've not. And credit to them, they've made what I think is a good decision, a responsible decision for the credibility of the league and its member clubs.
Yeah, just for context for anyone who doesn't know what Chris is referring to there, that there was obviously the Lowland League had a sponsor, Clark EPOS Systems, I think they were called, who obviously must have put some money in behind the league. However, it came to light that that sponsor had either defaulted on payments and kind of not paid clubs within the pyramid, and right up to, I think, probably the SPFL Prem, right down. And there was a talk of taking over Ardere in the west of Scotland and things like that. And it all just sounded a bit dodgy and a bit kind of risky. And they obviously came on board as a sponsor for the league. But as we understood it, the payments and things like that had been made to the league at that point. However, the league have made that decision whether or not contractually they've got something in there that allowed them to get out of that contract and that agreement with that sponsor, because the reputation of that company was probably in the mud because of how they treated other clubs. And it was probably one of these things that was affecting the Lowland League again, because they were it looked like sticking with them, but as Chris has said, they've made the right decision and they got rid. And I think they're going to. It sounds like probably looking for a new sponsor at this point in time from the statement they made the other week. But certainly a right move from the board, and say hopefully they'll find someone new. I guess if anyone's listening here and has got a big pot of money and want to sponsor the league, then get in touch with the Lowland League. If you want to sponsor this podcast as well, you can also get in touch with us because we'll always take sponsors. Not at
Absolutely.
But going back to the football, just a few more games to cover. Tranent beat Stirling Uni 2-1. Probably an unexpected result there from Tranent.
Yeah. Having said that, obviously, Chris, I did listen to his interview. He wasn't wearing a hat, Ben. You've no missed out anything. I'm sure he's probably sent that to you, by the way, and it's gone missing in the mail or something. I don't know.
Could have.
But yeah, he said, I listened to Chris's interview. Obviously, I kind of praised Tranent's media people as well, because they said it was, Stirling could have been, well ahead in the first half. Chris, I think, commented that it was the best half of football he's seen at Stirling Uni the whole 6 years he's been coach there. So that's some compliment. The Tranent keepers had an absolute world day. But I believe Tranent, Callum Elliott, as I said, we've praised him as being a sort of good manager, a good coach. He's made changes in the second half and they've came back into the game and won it at the death, I guess. It was, I think, Adam McGowan, who's on loan from Hamilton Accies, got the winner there. And it was interesting what Chris was saying, because don't get me wrong, I've seen Chris on the pitch after games, and he's been, going through boys as you would expect with a football coach if they've not been playing well. But in fairness to Chris, I think he said it was his fault. He never made the right changes, and he kind of took the blame for the defeat. But I mean, I don't think you can be too harsh on yourself when you're coming up against a really good Tranent side. We all rate them quite highly, and we think they're going to do well. And by that account, the Tranent, as I said, we praised the Tranent media because they basically said that. They basically said Stirling Uni could have had this in the bag by the first half, and it's good to see that. I quite like that. I like it when there's not always rose-tinted glasses, and you can actually just appreciate your opponent and say, actually, well, they've actually played really, really well. That's it, cut and dry. Unfortunately, it did sound like it was a game of two halves, and Tranent obviously came out firing after the changes that Callum Elliott made.
Yeah, I think you're right about Tranent, a team that are obviously new to the league. We knew there were no mugs based on their performance against Darvel in the playoff. They've come in there. I think they lost their first game against East EK, but since then they've kind of motored on, and 3 wins in the bounce now for Tranent, and certainly look like a team that we expect them to be. So yeah, fair play, and I think they'll continue, and it's only going to get I think better for Tranent. I still think a lot of talk of people thinking that Tranent were going to kind of win the league and things like that was probably a bit too much, and I think certainly looking at Bo'ness, they're probably obviously I would say a surprise package for me this year. They've started really strongly, but
the only undefeated team.
Absolutely,
the only undefeated team in the league.
That's the thing. I think from Tranent's perspective, they'll be up there, but I don't quite see them challenging. But yeah, I think they'll do well. All right, then we'll move on to Open Goal Broomhill versus Berwick. It was a 3-2 win for Broomhill, and questionable third goal for Broomhill, we believe, Chris.
Yeah, I heard it was, what was it, Derek Loyal that scored that. I heard he was about 10 miles offside. I've not seen any highlights. I don't know if they're trying to edit out and change angles and whatnot. So, but in
maybe
fairness,
it was his fringe. Maybe it was his fringe. It was offside.
But I did hear that. Berwick obviously made a few comments as well, the Berwick media, saying it was quite a controversial one. But yeah, I did hear he was well offside, so I don't know how it's not been caught by the linesman or the ref or whoever it was. I can't wait for the highlights, to be honest. But in fairness, we did get a wee bit of the lowdown on the game. Not too much details, but from what I've heard, Broomhill were really sort of taking it to Berwick at that point in time, and it was probably going to happen anyway. It's a great result from Broomhill because potentially that could have been, looking at a tricky fixture. We rate Berwick obviously this season, and we think they might be up there as well. So that would have been really tough if Broomhill didn't win that game, because that would have been 3 defeats on the bounce, and obviously that would have been this early. I think it would have been. Can you really call it? I don't know if you can call it death's door. This early, because we've just mentioned Bo'ness are the only undefeated team, and I'm pretty sure whoever wins the league this season is probably, could have as many as 5-6 losses.
I think the thing though about the Broomhill thing is obviously it's a new thing, and if you see a team that's come into the league, not come into the league, but the way that the structure obviously is, and the changeover and the kind of the backing that Broomhill have with, or Open Goal Broomhill, whatever you want to call it, and the whole kind of open goal kind of fan kind of backing and things like that, that if you start to lose games, it maybe just starts to kind of maybe peter off, and that kind of momentum you're trying to build as you're trying to build a fan base and things like that might just get affected by that. But as you say, good result for Broomhill, 3-2 back at Broadwood as well. So I think the worrying thing, if I'm looking at Broomhill now, is that they seem to be leaking goals for fun. I think it seems to be. I think listening to Cy Ferry, obviously he wants his team to play on the front foot and attack, and but obviously it feels like obviously they're maybe leaving themselves a bit weak at the back sometimes. And don't get me wrong, as long as you're scoring more goals in your opposition, then that's all you need to do in this game. But certainly it would be the concerning thing there is that they're kind of leaking goals fairly regularly. All right, one more game then we'll quickly gloss over. That's Gretna 2008, 7 Edinburgh University 2. Great result for Gretna, yeah, that's brilliant. We'll go on to Celtic beat East Kilbride after that.
Let's give credit to Gretna. Fantastic result, obviously. Russell Curry, 4 goals, Jack Dickinson, Fraser, Dan Carmichael to make it 7. Tough one for Edinburgh Uni, I think. In fairness, it's one of those ones where you kind of look at it and say, probably another one where it's Edinburgh Uni, Dalby, Gretna. In the past, we would have looked at it and said that that's one for the bottom end of the league. So it is albeit it's a fantastic win for Gretna. They will have tougher games coming up. But in fairness, I don't remember the last time Gretna scored as many as that. I can't, maybe Vela leaving, I don't know, last season or a few seasons ago, but it's fantastic, and obviously Jonathan will be chuffed. Tough one for Edinburgh Uni, who I think have actually started okay. They got the win against Dalby. They've picked up a few results, as they will, but for Gretna, I think it's not just about beating the teams that we expect to be at the bottom. They need to start beating the sort of teams above them, the mid-table teams, and even if they can pick up a result here or there against a top-level side. But it's something to build on, some momentum. looks like Stephen Hatfield is getting a wee bit more adventurous. Obviously, we kind of called it out that he was probably only playing like one striker, and now it seems like he's going with two of them. Maybe changing up tactically to sort of adjust and get more attacking, because that we've mentioned obviously that Gretna side is not like it used to be. It's got a lot of attacking threat with Russell Curry, Mikey Mbu and Ben Spielman as well. So there is goals there. But yeah, I'm quite happy that for that. In terms of Edinburgh Uni, we've already kind of mentioned it. I think they'll get results. I feel like I keep picking on them for being at the bottom of the league, and they prove me wrong. But at the end of the day, I'm not going to be absolute raging if they're not at the bottom of the league. I'd actually be quite happy because it's one of those teams. We're all for the underdogs, aren't we? Most of the time, Ben. So I like being proven wrong. And I think you'll be proven wrong by Gretna as well by the end of the season. But it's a long season to go. It's a long season.
I mean, from my perspective, yeah, it's a great result for Gretna, 100%. I've talked about Russell Curry plenty of times in terms of being a great striker, and good to see him getting goals. I'm delighted for him. I don't want to see Gretna do badly. I think that's what I'm be clear about here, is that just from what I've seen obviously last season and from the kind of business they've done, I wasn't massively impressed with that. And when I was looking for a team to pick, I thought getting on with the team, and yeah, I mean it's a good result, but let's remember that it's just one game. They need to go and show that in the rest of the games and make sure they are getting the results, because if not, as you say, they'll be down the dog fight, I think, this year anyway. Looking at it early doors, you're probably going to say that thank God that Dalbeat Star there, because they look like they're struggling already. That's essentially what teams like Gretna and Edinburgh Uni are going to have to do this year, is probably be better than Dalbeat Star, and you'll probably be okay. But if Jordan Williamson turns it around, Dalbeat, I say turn that around like he's in the mud, but if he can get some guys in that maybe change the team around and start to take it to the likes of Gretna and Edinburgh Uni, then he'll pick up the points there, and then it becomes a bit of a challenge for those teams. So yeah, fair play, absolutely well done to Gretna. Great result. Fair play to Russell Curry, as I say, but it's still early doors.
And historically, Dalbeat teams don't like going to Islecroft. I mean, I don't like going to Islecroft. It's too far away for me, but they've been saved many times by just turning Islecroft into an absolute fortress that no one wants to go to. A few run of fixtures at home, if they can build a wee bit of momentum at home, that can be a lifesaver for teams languishing near the bottom. And again, yeah, we all rate Jordan as a coach. He's a young coach, and again, I don't really know too much about their team. That'll be something I need to really sort of look into. But again, it's probably guys coming up the level rather than going down, as we have seen with a lot of these teams. But yeah, it's going to be interesting at the bottom as much as at the top this season, I think.
Well, moving on then quickly to the South of Scotland League, there was two matches. Abbeyville beat Wigtown Bladnoch 10-0, and Upper Annandale beat Lochmaben 4-2. Not an awful lot around it. Also a 10-0 victory for Abbeyville is an awful result for them. It's a great win. Anyone scoring double figures in a game's pretty impressive, regardless of who you're playing. Upper Annandale 4-2. There's not an awful lot of league games, I think, just because there's like cup competitions on as well at the moment.
Yeah, kind of similar to the East of Scotland and not so much the West, but yeah, the South of Scotland has like their League Cups going. Obviously, East of Scotland has like the Alex Jack, and then the early sort of doors East of Scotland qualifying cup as well. So yeah, so that's probably, we've not had a lot of league fixtures so far to look at.
Yeah, then moving on into East of Scotland Premier League, and we'll start with Broxburn. Drew 1 each with Blackburn United. Hillerbeath 4 each with Socky. Linlithgow Rose lost 1-0 to Musselburgh Athletic. Tynecastle lost 4-2 to Jeanfield Swifts. That Hillerbeath Socky game sounds like a bit of a barnstormer.
Aye, an absolute classic at Kears Park. Certainly getting your money's worth there, but Hillerbeath kind of struggled a wee bit last season. I think they'll be in a better shape this season, but Socky are an awkward team. You know what I mean? We've talked about them obviously being in terms of the cup competitions, they were, I think, really comfortable and safe last season in the East of Scotland Premier. So it'll be one of those where it's like two teams probably at a similar level just going hell for leather, and that's probably why you get a 4-4 result. But an absolute classic.
Obviously, Linlithgow Rose defeated off of Musselburgh. I think that was a bit of a surprise. We obviously tipped Linlithgow Rose to do well this year, but Musselburgh getting the points.
Yeah, the only team that seems to be letting me down at the moment is Linlithgow Rose in terms of my predictions, but it's a tough one. It is a tough one. Musselburgh, I think, in fairness, have a decent team. Probably, in my opinion, not on the level that I would rate Linlithgow Rose. Obviously, I think Linlithgow Rose are going to win the league still, despite their. I wouldn't even say it's a bad start. It's only been 2-3 games. So, but yeah, I would give credit to Musselburgh. I mean, Craig Stevenson's left Trinent to go there recently. He's obviously a fantastic player, can do a lot. Yeah, Lyle Smith, who was previously at Vale leaving, got the goal for Musselburgh, and he was always sort of one of the better players at Vale. So I'm really happy to see him do well. But yeah, Linlithgow Rose really need to sort of pick up now and kind of concentrate, because you can maybe have one or two losses at the beginning, but you start losing more, and then there's maybe another consistent team, then it becomes a struggle where you're actually chasing it down.
I think we obviously had quite high expectations of Linlithgow Rose, so I think they'll turn around. They're always a good side, they're a good old-fashioned kind of junior side, if you like, so I would expect them to turn around at some point. All right, just quickly, briefly across the board in the rest of the East of Scotland. In the First Division, Dunbar United won 2-0 against Whitehill Welfare. Newton Grey Star won 1-0 against Blunt Island Shipyard. Preston Athletic drew 1 each with Kennaway Star Hearts. In the Second Division, Tweedmouth Rangers beat Stirling Uni Reserves 2-1. Syngenta beat Hoyk Royal Albert 8-0. Now, let's have a talk about this. James Finlay scores 5 goals for Syngenta. Now, you know me, I've got my fan clubs within the pyramid. I recently closed the Daz Christie fan club because he chose to sign for Pollock over Cowan and Rangers. So we're closing that fan club. But my James Finlay fan club's still open at this point in time. But for me, that boy is an absolute wasted talent in the Second Division of the East of Scotland Football League. No disrespect to that league or Syngenta, but that boy can be playing at a much higher level as far as I'm concerned. And rattling 5 in against Hoyk obviously just shows he's just too good.
Hoyk, oh God, I hate using that word. Transition. Kenny Aitchison's obviously just returned to Hoyk, one of the younger managers in, I guess, senior football. He's only 28-year-old. He was at Hoyk previously. Didn't quite work out well. I think his most successful period, in fairness to Kenny, is probably when he managed Civil under-20s. So in terms of his senior career as a manager, it's probably not. I think he's had only short spells. So I really hope it works out for him. But it's a tough ask. A tough ask to, when you're coming up against a Syngenta side that, let's face it, they're way above that level. They should probably. Absolutely. I mean, they. I don't think they would have any problems competing at the East of Scotland Premier League level. So there is still teams and players, and you'll just look at and think there's no way they should be. And it's the same in the Lowland League. Obviously, there's some SPFL quality players playing in the Lowland League, and think he shouldn't probably be playing for a Lowland League side. Look at Darvel. We'll probably mention Darvel obviously soon, but. They're too. I guess, are they too good for the level? I mean, I just appreciate the fact that I think I tweeted out before we came on today, but the quality this season, I think, of all leagues, probably not so much further down, because there is still, I think, more further down, there are still teams trying to find their level, but. It's immense. I mean, I've actually been really impressed with players that I know, that I'm aware of, who seem to have got better, especially the younger players. I'm like, wow, this guy looks amazing now. Probably didn't. I wouldn't say he didn't stand out, but I would say there's players that I think everyone's up their game, is what I'm trying to say. Basically, I think we know what's coming from beneath in terms of the Lowland League. So it's like clubs have really tried to to improve their quality, so they're not one of these teams that has to face relegation or then go down to a West or East league that they potentially might struggle in, as is what we've seen with Whitehill Welfare and Vale leaving. So it's an interesting time.
Yeah, I think the thing about St Gent is they're obviously backed like one of these.
Yep.
Like financially, there's no doubt about that. If they're signing guys like James Finlay, there's no doubt about it. That club have got money, and they'll find a level. As you say, I think we always think about finding a level is kind of like in the reverse. Your Shires and your Cowden Beasts and your Berwicks and all that kind of thing that came down from SPFL. But naturally, there'll be teams that'll be going up the way because they have the backing and they've got the support and they've got people who want to take the team on. I mean, obviously there's plenty of teams in the west of Scotland that want to do that as well. So there's no reason why a team like St Junta can't be a Prem team within kind of 2 years maybe. I think they'll probably run away with that league in the second division of East of Scotland. But back to James Finlay one more time. But fair play him. But if you're a Lowland League team looking for a striker, that's where to go. As far as I'm concerned, if you can afford them, then 100% go and get that boy because he's far too good for. Obviously, he signed for EK last year from Rossvale, and we weren't sure how we'd get on at EK, and he started well before kind of petering out, but and he also went St Gent on loan last year. I think January, February time last year, but he signed it permanently. Fuck knows why, but anyway. That's all I've got to say on the matter. And James, if you're listening, I think you're a great player, so that's all it is. Right, moving on then to the West of Scotland League, and we'll start in the Prem. We'll start with Pollock and Largs. Chris, obviously you're a Pollock fanboy. No, are you also a Largs fanboy?
Yeah, fanboy.
I don't know how 0-0. I mean, for me, that's a good result for Largs, really. Pollock. Pollock are okay. I think. I'm not one of these people that have Pollock.
See how you feel.
Yeah,
See how you feel, Ben.
Don't have him high in the league. I mean, don't get me wrong. We're going to go into the Cohen result just shortly, but for me, it's probably a 0-0 and probably disappointing more for Pollock, as you say, and a decent point away at Newlandsfield for Largs.
Yeah, not gonna lie, I had Pollock winning that one, but I'm actually, I like Largs, so I'm glad that's a good point for them to hopefully stay in the fight. I think we talked about this last time, but yeah, I'm still not 100% sure on where I have Largs in terms of avoiding. I know that they'll probably be nearer the bottom, but hopefully they can avoid relegation, and I think that's an excellent result for them. For a Pollock team that I rate that maybe Ben doesn't rate as so high.
It's not as much I don't rate them. They've got some good individual players, but I just think as a team, like they've lost, for example, Matty Grant signed for during the week. And a great result. Obviously, they've tried obviously sort out a development fee for him because he was obviously brought through. I don't know how that works in terms of how long he was at Pollock, but he must have been at Pollock obviously as a youth or something like that to come through, and he signed first in a great move for Matty because I think I called him out last year as like one of the players of my team of the season. I remember playing at Newlandsfield, the Buffs were in Newlandsfield and they won 2-1 and he ran our left back ragged that day and he had a great game and didn't do so well in the return game at Buffs Park, but he's a good player and deserved of his move up the leagues because obviously, like you said, there's individual players in these leagues that we know that are good enough and can be playing at a higher standard, and obviously we mentioned before Will Sewell at Largs who obviously moved to Stenhousemuir and kind of been in and out of the team, but it certainly seems to be adjusting slowly to the League Two. But Paul Largs 0-0. But moving on then, it was Kirkintar, Rob Roy 2, Peters Hill. A decent result for Rob Roy. I mean, probably one of those ones you said potential banana skin for them in terms of you don't really know an awful lot about Peters Hill just now, but Rob Roy a decent side. They finished mid-table last year and well deserved that victory. Next one then, Glenafton 1, Arthurlie 0. This was a game I probably said that it could have been one where I could turn up for the books and Arthurlie could have got a result, but Glenafton managed to get the win in the end, and Ryan Stevenson seems to be doing all right down there at Glenafton.
Yeah, and often you've said a lot about Ryan Stevenson. Obviously, you were his biggest fan at one point, but yeah, I think he's done all right. Yeah, like basically what you said. I don't know how much experience he has in terms of obviously. I think that's his first senior job, isn't it, Ben? I don't think he's
Yeah,
had
yeah,
any.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So I think it's always interesting when you have a young sort of coach slash manager in their first job. But yeah, I don't really have any worries about Glenafton actually. Looking at their squad and some of the transfers they've done, I think they'll not be near the top, but I don't think they're. I don't know, maybe mid-table. Do you think they might struggle, Ben?
No, I think looking at them now, I think they're probably going to be that kind of mid-table side. Certainly, I think at the start of the season it had been like that concerning, but I think from what I know, it's only been 2 games. What I've seen of kind of Petershill, Atherley, Cambuslang, it seems like they potentially could be the kind of are going to be near the bottom. We mentioned Largs probably going to be the same, but certainly I think Glenafton will be fine
Yep.
this season. All right, next game then is Clydebank lost 3-2 to Irvine Meadow at home park. This was, to be quite honest,
Shock, yeah.
a shock for
Yeah.
me. There was Irvine Meadow 3-1 up at half time. Sorry, 3-0 up at half time. Certainly, I don't know, maybe Clydebank just struggling to kind of get a team together properly at the moment. They're still obviously, they brought in Craig Little during the week from Darvel. Meadow, I obviously seen them last week against us, and I thought they were, and that's not just saying this, I thought they were terrible. I thought they could be a team that could be near the bottom, but that's a surprise result. And fair play, Callum Graham getting the hat trick there. He's a great forward. I've got a lot of time for him as a player. And someone who was at Pollock, I think, last year, and then kind of one, I think Pollock signed about 1 million strikers and ended up having like 3 or 4 of them ended up going elsewhere because they weren't either getting game time and things like that. But yeah, I think from Meadows' perspective, it's a good result. And, obviously, a sore one in terms of last week getting beat off ourselves and bounce back with a result against Clydebanks. But perfect way to do that. Right, next result then. Bees lost to Hurlford 2-0 at Bellsdale Park. Chris Strain's second match in charge. Defeat there for him. He'll be disappointed, I'm sure. And certainly a good result for Hurlford. We're not really sure what Hurlford are going to be like this year, certainly. With a couple of good signings, but didn't really know what it'll be like. But managed to get a nice away win for them.
Yeah, it's good. It's good. Obviously, not for Straney, obviously, but there's going to be results like that. I think in the West that that again it'll be. I don't think it'll be as similar as the Lowland League in terms of teams taking points off each other, but there'll be a few shock results like as there is, every season with different leagues.
Yeah, absolutely. 2 more games then to cover off. The one, probably the big one, was Auchinleck versus Darvel, and a 3-0 win for Darvel, given the result last week against Cumbernauld. Probably surprised us a little bit, certainly. And for me, Auchinleck, I think Auchinleck might struggle this year. I'm going to put nail my cards to the mast already, and I think they might struggle. They've lost guys like Hislop and Shanklin's out for a bit, and I just feel like they're maybe not strengthened as well as they could have in the squad, and that might just start to show down the stretch. And a great result for Darvel. I mean, we talk about Darvel a lot, and people think I hate them, but I can always admire them as a footballing team. They're a great side. They've got the strength and depth. They've got that team, and you can just look at the changes they made from that result last week against Cumbernauld. A great squad. Mick's obviously doing his thing as well, and I mean it's going to be tight at the top. I think that's the important thing here. In the West of Scotland, it's going to be tight. Auchinleck, Darvel. We haven't mentioned Cumbernauld briefly. They obviously won 2-0 yesterday against Cambuslang Rangers. Cumbernauld 2 out of 2. They're going to be challenging. Pollock, we expect a challenge. They're also a good side, and well, you expect them to challenge. I probably don't, but it's going to be close. I think at the top of the league this year, and as you say, teams can take points off each other every week. So it'll be interesting.
Yeah, that was the game of the week. Obviously, I was when I made the prediction of Auchinleck being up there. It's mainly because of Tommy Sloan and the history, I think. But
Yeah,
quickly after I made that prediction of them being there, obviously they lost Shankland, who's taking a break from football. Dwayne Hislop retired, and Stevie White's kind of in a coaching role now. So I mean that's like almost their whole midfield, which isn't ideal. I think they'll bounce back, but that's a tough one, especially at Beechwood. Kind of I kind of got a weird feeling when I posted that out. Obviously, that was the game of the week because it was the most standout game in terms of the fixture, I guess, in terms of two top West of Scotland Premier sides. But it's Auchinleck fans will be worried after that. With all due respect to Darvel, who are a quality side, as we know, we talk about them quite a lot, as you say, Ben. So fully expect them to be up there as well.
Yeah, I mean it's only one defeat for Auchinleck against the league champions, effectively.
Yep.
I don't think they'll be quite running the panic stations at this moment in time, but certainly from Auchinleck's perspective, that's a sore loss. No one wants to get beat off Darvel. I mean, let's be honest, it's probably like a cup final for every team that go and play Darvel because of the kind of the backstory there. And I think Auchinleck will be fine. Ultimately, there's always that argument as well that Auchinleck probably not that bothered by getting promoted. There's always that thing as well. So like there's always that in the background that you probably find as well. So yeah, I mean, bad result for Auchinleck, great result for Darvel, but they'll bounce back absolutely. No problem with that at all. All right then, the final game of the West of Scotland Premier Division, of course, is Cowan and Rangers 2, Troon 3. We could probably just gloss over that if you want, Chris.
Yeah, I heard for the grapevine that there's some sort of dodgy sort of suspension going on. Do you know what? Well, of course you know about it, Ben, but I don't know how much you wanted to reveal.
There's obviously, we put out a club statement on Friday about playing an eligible player, and the league have said there's a notice of complaint with regards to that as it relates to Kevin Nichol, who had a previous suspension at Clyde. All we can really do now is just provide the evidence to the league and await our fate. But I think from my perspective, it's hilarious to read social media and Pat Barvo and all these kind of places on what's going to happen and what's expected to happen and the accusations of cheating and all this kind of things and things with trying to do things deliberate and all that. It's not like that. And I think just to quash any sort of rumour that the result gets overturned and Meadow get the win if we are found guilty of certainly having played an eligible player. That's not the case. The West of Scotland rule clearly states that a team gets the 3-point deduction and £100 fine. Now, that if you lost that match or drawn that match, you still get a 3-point deduction. That's how it works. You don't the result isn't reversed or anything like that. So we'll still have a +2 goal difference, or +1 after yesterday's game. But this nonsense here you're reading online that people think they know what they're talking about and having a clue. And I'll be quite honest with you, I'm reading that from football players and managers and committee members of other clubs as well. So it's not just nutters on the internet. Do you know what I mean? It's just it's everywhere. And read the rule book. Quite frankly, is what I'm saying there. Well, we'll find out what happens, and the club will make a statement. I mean, as I said, we put the statement out on the other day, or Friday, I think it was, and we're awaiting our fate, and we'll put out a statement when that's when we're found to either have breached or not breached the rules, depending on obviously the outcome of that situation. So that's pretty much it, really, Chris.
Yeah, it's. I mean, I've seen it when I've been involved in teams. I mean, it's happened at the highest levels. You think Champions Leagues, it's a mistake. It's not, and sometimes it's not even a mistake because sometimes you can look into it and think the players, fine to go, and then maybe it turns out they're not after the game. It's
yeah. I think from our perspective, on that point, there's mitigation in place, and well, it's not as black and white as we played an eligible player. Put it that way. I'm not going to say obviously too much because it's still kind of under investigation, but certainly from our perspective, it's not as clear cut, and we'll obviously hope that we come out okay in it. But if we don't, we'll take the punishment and we'll take our medicine like you're supposed to, and we'll take that 3 points. It's probably, if we do lose the 3 points, it's probably good that it happens at the start of the season rather than midway through or towards the end of the season. So we know we need to make those points up if we do, but who knows what will happen. That's what it is really, as far as we're concerned.
So there's only really one other question to ask, Ben. How did the elite Sam Jameson do against the Buffs yesterday for Troon?
The elite striker, yeah. Sorry, I wasn't sure you were talking about there for a second because he didn't really do anything. I mean, he was on the park and he played, and he probably worked quite hard off the ball and maybe on the ball, but certainly didn't get a goal. And I wasn't massively impressed by him personally. I wouldn't have said he was an elite striker by any means of the imagination. And I know that was a comment that was levelled by Dean Keenan, who was the assistant manager at Troon. I know you're good pals with Dino, but that guy would give painkillers a sore head, man, listening to him on the sidelines.
For the record, I like Sam Jameson as well. I thought he was alright.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I think he's a good player. Whether or not he was deserved to be in the team of the year last year, absolutely not. As far as I'm concerned, no, he wasn't. So, and again, it goes back to what we talked about earlier on. It's all about opinions, and that's all that was. But yeah, from our perspective, yesterday that game, we were in control for large parts of the first half, and probably unfortunate to go in at 2-1. Sorry, 2 each. We've had a couple of chances in the first half. Gav Mills blazed one over the bar from about 10 yards. Mark Lamont's been through on goal, and the keepers ended up having quite an easy save. The second half, Big Dylan Markins had 2 great chances. I mean, one of them's like in the 6-yard box, and he's passed it to the goalie who's on the line. Do you know what I mean? He just has to find the target, and he scored. But just a bad day at the office, I think. If you watch maybe a post-match interview with our players, and I spoke to Chris Miller, he spoke about it very well, and that's what you get from obviously someone like Chris who's experienced, and it was all about kind of playing in both boxes, and we just didn't do well enough. We didn't defend well enough. We didn't attack well enough, and that's the crux of it. Probably the unfortunate thing is that we're probably going to a game against Darvel now on Friday night at Recreation Park. Not the game you want to be going to for 6 days after defeat. So I mean, we'll bounce back, and we obviously we talk about transition all the time. That's obviously probably our favourite word in this podcast now. But we're another team in that position. We signed 15 players this summer. 12, I think. 12 kind of first team players, and so far we've got 3 under 20s boys that are signed and kind of been in and around the squad. So 15 guys to come in and get to know each other, on top of the guys obviously that we had from last season. We kept a few guys around in the shape of like Kieran Wood and Jordan Stewart, Ben Lewis, Thomas Collins, Gav Miller. The ones that probably performed well last season have stuck around it, obviously, and that's been good for us, and we'll be fine. I think as a club. I still think we'll be up there. Whether or not we'll win the league, not too sure, but we'll certainly challenge. That's that, and that game probably will be good for their character as well, because I think when you look at it, it was probably one of those games where we struggled for large parts of the game when the chips were down, you know, and that's probably what kind of a lot of these younger kind of lads in the squad. We have the experienced guys like we mentioned, like Chris Miller, for example, and you say experienced guys. We're looking at like Thomas Collins. He's only 24. I mean, he's not. He's just a boy really himself. And Alden El Zubaydi, good players, but they're still young. You know, still young guys, but have played at a decent level. And that's what you'll find is that over the course of the season, the character will build and we'll do all right. And obviously, we've got cup games to look forward to. We've also got drawn in the Scottish Cup for the first time as well. We're playing Rutherglen away. Would have been nice to have got a bigger tie, and not a bigger tie, but like a kind of an away tie against a team we don't see fairly regularly. We played Rutherglen, I think, twice last year, and one of them was a 4-1 up at half-time job, and we drew 4 each, you know. So from our perspective, it'll be the cup will be exciting. Obviously, the South Challenge Cup as well, and in the West of Scotland League Cup as well. So there's plenty for us to get excited about. The club's new. There's a lot of things happening as well. So I mean, it's only one result. I'm not getting too worried about it personally.
Good. Keep the head up.
That's it. Well, that's pretty much it for the roundup of the tier 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Do we stop at 9? We need to probably count this.
It's 10, I think. I think 10 it is 10.
Is the 4th division?
Yeah, in the West. Yeah. 7. Wait, hold on. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, sorry.
Chris can count his fingers as well. But yeah, I mean that's it. That's it. So we're always here to cover off. Probably run out of time today to cover off in the rest of the West of Scotland. But Chris, where do we get ourselves if you want to get in touch with us?
The official Catchup is at the official Catchup on Twitter, Lowland League Catchup on Facebook, and yeah, we're pretty much everywhere podcast wise now on Audible as well. But I believe our number one place is still Apple Podcasts, so plenty of iPhone users listening in there. I'm more of a Spotify type guy, so
iPhone all the way.
Terrible. Steve Jobs has you spying or whatever.
I should caveat that though, that the fact that I listen to my podcast on Spotify. Although I've got an app, I've got a phone. That's a fact actually, because a lot of the podcasts I like you listen to are sometimes now Spotify exclusive.
Yeah.
Because obviously the change in Spotify putting a bit of money into podcasting, so free plug for Spotify there. But if you want to get me on Twitter, it's Mr. Ben Grant. As always, send your heat my way if you don't like what I say. I don't think I've upset anyone on this podcast. Maybe true. Yeah, maybe true. But yeah, I mean, we used to slag Troon every week on this podcast. So for Ryan Stevenson, it's all like 6 degrees of separation this podcast this week, isn't it? Anyway, well, we'll be back next week, of course, no doubt. A full roundup of what's happened across the leagues. But until next week, have a good one. Cheers.